Something you said in that conversation triggered something that I know I've been asked recently, and that is one, nonprofits, because they are tax exempt um, organizations, they are regulated by the IRS, so it's really important that you do adhere to these governance principles, which I think is going to be even more important given the current political climate in the next
Yep.
4 years. And so we do know that a lot of organizations are faced with either they know they're going to lose funding or they are afraid that they may lose funding,
Yep.
what's going on. So how can the board kind of step in at these times? I've seen a lot of, frankly, what I think is bad advice on LinkedIn recently from people who know nothing about nonprofits or boards and what nonprofits should do right now, but with these cuts.
Yep.
But I know you know how to help these boards right now dealing with
Yep.
maybe the fear of cuts or the reality
Right.
of cuts.
Right. And again, maybe sometimes perception is reality, right? There is fear, there's uncertainty. And I think that this uncertainty is adding to the chaos because we can't predict what
Mhm.
is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So every nonprofit, regardless of what sector you're in, at your next board meeting, I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to have a presentation as to how much of your revenue is coming from the federal, state, county, city, local government. Many times the state dollars or the county dollars are actually passed through federal dollars. So I want you to run a calculation. Remember, I talked about the dependency quotient, which is a measure of risk. I want you to report to your board, what is your level of risk? If the federal government completely freezes all spending, what percentage of your budget is at risk? That's number one from the government side. Number two, if the federal government eliminates all of those employees that they're talking about, all the buyouts of staff and shrinking the size of the quote unquote bureaucracy, that might mean less people to process the pay work and the checks that you get. So all of our clients that get a lot of Medicaid dollars, the number one thing that they always say is Medicaid is slow to reimburse, right? If you think Medicaid was slow to pay before, and if 40% of their workforce is now going to be cut, how slow do you think they're going to be able to pay in the coming months? So number one, what is that? What percentage of your revenue is coming from these government sources? Number two, how much of your revenue would be impacted by a delay in timing? Or if you're working with the immigrant and refugee community and they need their TPS status renewed, how many, if the employees can't process that paperwork, what impact is it on you? So one is money, two is people. And then number three, what's your balance sheet? How much cash do you have in reserves? How many months of operations can you sustain if the spigot from the federal government gets turned off? Number four, do you have access to a line of credit? If you need it to dip into a line of credit to manage cash flow, can you? Then number five, how much has your board given? Have they all given? And what can they do to make a special one-time gift in these times? And then number six, what is going to be your fundraising strategy going forward? But you can't start with fundraising strategy. You have to know these other things first, then design your fundraising strategy. Any client, any board who says, all right, what are we doing different on fundraising tomorrow? Before they answer all these other questions is being really short-sighted.
Yeah. What's interesting is one thing you didn't mention is immediately go to cuts.
I wouldn't do that yet.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying don't do that yet is I don't want the entire sector to have a knee-jerk reaction and 10 days later have a federal judge halt it, right?
Mhm.
Like this is such an unpredictable time. So I wouldn't do draconian cuts right away. We don't know how all this is going to play out, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And your
And
work is still needed. So
and the work is still
yeah.
needed. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, your mission is still relevant. I would not resist the fear-based decision of slashing. We again, a federal judge can be issued. You guys, this is like unprecedented territory, and it's highly unpredictable. It's highly volatile. So be mindful of what's happening, but don't let fear drive a massive decision. We're going to need to live through this a little bit longer. It's only been 3 weeks.